Okay, so I'll dive right in. So I'm Rich Dorito. I am a product manager at Red Hat. I'm part of a newly formed team at Red Hat. We're the IT business management team. Our responsibility inside of Red Hat, in short, is honestly to make it easy to do business with Red Hat, right? So that covers a whole bunch of different areas, all the way from some of the tools that we build around cost management and subscription reporting, which I'm going to talk about a couple of those just at a high level, just so you understand the big portfolio. And then we also cover all the way down to things like the actual tools that you interact with and tools like Satellite around subscription management. So we own the full gamut of the experience. And today we're going to focus a lot on simple content access and how it's a powerful capability that's going to help you guys out during not only the renewal itself, but also just operationally going forward. So from a kind of background perspective, this is my team. This is the entirety of our group. We're a relatively small team, but we have, again, pretty broad footprint. We like to use baby pictures because what's better than open up a presentation than with baby pictures, right? Like we're all cute as kids. Again, my team's goal is to drive those improvements across the cost management and subscription management portfolios at Red Hat. We unify all the subscription management tools from Red Hat. And then we also work with people on our business side to invent or improve tooling that support new business models. As an example, traditionally with Red Hat, you purchase subscriptions on, a yearly basis, or in some cases 3 or 5 years. As the markets evolve, our customers and partners are asking us to offer, consumption-based pricing, or in the case of things like Ansible, people want to do I want to pay by the automation action, and it's my team that works with those business groups to develop that tooling. So let's talk about while we're here some of the tools that we built. So in 2020, we introduced two separate but mutually supporting tools that are intended specifically to help out with your subscription experience. The first tool is a tool we introduced called Red Hat Subscription Watch. And Subscription Watch is a SaaS-based offering that's available at cloud.redhat.com. And the purpose of Subscription Watch is to give you a holistic, account-wide reporting of the Red Hat products that you have deployed. So one of the challenges we ran into with customers was when it came time to, either do a renewal or do a true up, or even just have, good day-to-day governance. Understanding how much Red Hat product you had deployed and where was incredibly difficult, especially if you had satellite servers in play, because satellite servers are and were historically built to never share data with anyone outside of the satellite server. So being able to answer the questions of, I bought a whole bunch of Red Hat products, where are they used? That was actually a pretty difficult question, more difficult than it needed to be. So we've built Subscription Watch with integration into various products like Satellite, OpenShift, as well as some of the other products like our customer portal, so you can have that unified reporting in one place. The second challenge that we ran into was, from an operational perspective, dealing with our subscription management tools is incredibly complex. We like to say it on our side, we required our customers and partners to have a PhD in Red Hat subscription management in order to use the stuff that they already paid for. And that level of friction is not good for the customer experience. It's not good, for just trying to get your mission done and support the business that you have to support. So we introduced simple content access. Currently today, it's available only for Red Hat Satellite. In the very near future, spring of this year, we're going to introduce it for our hosted folks who are directly connected to the customer portal. But simple content access is a capability in Satellite that removes the requirement to attach a subscription to every system that's registered to Satellite. And by doing that, we simplify a number of steps around the subscription experience. First and foremost, you don't have to be an expert at Red Hat subscription management. What's the right SKU to put on this box? Is it RH0001 or 0002? That level of domain expertise is no longer required. Where it helps in renewals, and I have a slide on this in a few slides, is when it comes to renewals, if you don't have to attach subscriptions in the first place, it means after renewal, getting back up and running, importing your new subscriptions, goes from being a process that may take hours, if not days, depending upon your workflows and how complex your environments are, to being a matter of minutes. Now, collectively, we see those tools generally being used together because now I have a tool that makes it easy for me to leverage the Red Hat technologies in Satellite. And now I have a holistic reporting tool, but they are not compulsory to be used together. You can use either, neither, or both. So this is a screenshot of Subscription Watch, and Subscription Watch, again, it's hosted at cloud.redhat.com. It has integrations with satellites, both connected and disconnected satellites. And what Subscription Watch enables me to see, like this chart shows, is it shows my usage of Red Hat products over time, right? So in this view, I'm showing a daily view, which goes back roughly a month, but we also have a monthly view, a weekly view, monthly view, and a yearly view. So you can actually go back, I believe we're required to hold 4 years worth of data. So what this allows me to see is that over time, I can see the aggregate usage of my Red Hat products and what type of Red Hat products I've been using. So what we articulate in this chart is the dotted green line at the top. That represents your subscription threshold, right? That is the sum total of all the RHEL subscriptions that you've purchased. Add them all up. How many sockets do they provide? In this case, it's about 180 sockets. And then beneath that line, you'll see a multicolored chart that's going to vary on a daily basis, showing me how much of that RHEL I'm using, right? In this case, I have most of my systems are physical, but there's also virtualized RHEL in there, such as my hypervisors. And then we also count for RHEL that's on the public cloud. So this is really cool because one, it allows me to see over time. So it allows me to do things like retroactively looking at how much I was using a while ago. And also you can start to see trends, right? Like if you realize that month over month that we're going up in the amount of RHEL that we're using by, I don't know, 50 sockets or so, you can start to see where like, okay, we can extrapolate from here and figure out when we're going to need to make a net new purchase. So again, Subscription Watch is just one other part of the new Red Hat subscription experience to make it easy for you to understand how much of our stuff are you using. Now, the really cool stuff, simple content access, right? This is near and dear to my heart. Previously to me coming to this team, I used to be a product manager for Satellite. So, I've had a lot of calls with customers and partners who are like, hey, this subscription stuff is kind of hard. Simple content access, it's available today. So as a Satellite user today, go to the customer portal. You can enable SCA, just like this screenshot shows. And once SCA is enabled, you can start to issue Satellite manifests that have that attribute turned on, which simplifies that entitlement tooling experience. Again, no longer required to attach subscriptions to systems, which makes things like operational work a lot easier. Your activation keys, various other Satellite artifacts become significantly simplified, and it also reduces a lot of the work we have to do when a renewal or even a net new purchase comes up. So again, let's talk through why we built simple content access, right? First and foremost, we built it because our enforcement tools that were actually attempting to restrict access to content based upon you having the right subscription, they were good, but they weren't great, right? And one of the challenges we ran into was there were use cases when the tools would prevent you when they shouldn't have. And that's a very frustrating thing, right? Because as the consumer of the Red Hat technology, you're like, hey, I know I paid for that. I know we have the right quantities. I know I'm doing the right thing. Why are you telling me no? So that was one of the first challenges we ran into. Second challenge that we ran into was the workflows that happen everywhere in any kind of real operational environment weren't really accounted for in our subscription tooling. Things like a hardware migration, right? I'm a former sysadmin by trade before I came to Red Hat a few years ago. And one of the things that you commonly would do when you do a hardware migration is you buy a new server or stand up a new VM, you build it to make it look like the one you're replacing. You do a whole bunch of integration testing and everything to make sure that everything looks good. And then you cut the workloads over to the new VM. But during a period of time, you do have two of these things online in parallel, And you're doing that so that you have, done your due diligence to make sure the new thing's okay, and also to make sure that you have, some kind of good fallback in case the new thing is not okay. Our subscription tools didn't really account for that. And then lastly, which is something that the larger of a Red Hat customer you become, the more this problem actually impacts you, which is kind of crappy, right? Usually when you become a bigger customer, business becomes easier to do with another company. But we realized that, our largest customers who are buying things across Red Hat's, broad portfolio of stuff and had, things like ELAs and various other complex contracts, we were noticing that those customers were having large amounts of subscription pain due to the fact that they had a diverse amount of subscriptions. So we looked at all of those three things and were like, well, maybe enforcing subscriptions at the system level, maybe that isn't the best idea to do anymore, right? Let's move to a different model. So again, simple content access, it is a technical facility, right? It's a technical tooling. Basically it's a behavior that you set in satellite that will enable, which changes the way how satellite performs with regards to subscription management. At its core, when it's enabled, it removes the requirement to attach an entitlement to a system, period. And I know that sounds relatively simple, but man, it makes a lot of things easier. The other thing that it does is it allows you to move some of the enforcement and governance. If you wanted to do that, you move that away from being something that's based upon Red Hat subscriptions and move it over to things like activation keys or content views, right? So you still have the ability to say, you know what, I only want to register 10 systems of this particular variety. You still have that capability in satellite. There's still governance. It's available in satellite. In the near future, we'll have it available for our customer portal. Again, it is targeted for spring this year, but it can only be enabled by an org admin in the customer portal. So that's one of the permissions boundaries you do have to have. And then lastly, which is most importantly, SCA does not change the business terms of how you deal with Red Hat, right? You are still expected to, to maintain all the requirements of whatever terms it is you sign with Red Hat. SCA just makes it so that the technical tools don't stop you from doing it. And that's why we built Subscription Watch as another tool to help you understand your usage over time. All right, just kind of what it is and what it isn't slide. Key things to note, I don't know which versions of satellite you guys have in the wild, but you need at least satellite 6.5 to take advantage of SCA. Latest version of satellite 6.8. So any satellite released in the last 2 years, you should be good. Things that SCA isn't, again, it doesn't affect your contract terms, and it doesn't provide you access to products not yet purchased. So in the case of, maybe you don't own Rev. If you don't own at least one subscription for Rev, SCA wouldn't give you access to Rev content. From a governance perspective, right, for a satellite server, you basically import your subscription manifest with that SCA flag on it, and then once that manifest is imported inside of satellite, you can go ahead and begin using SCA, and then you have the ability to set that on activation keys. And I'll go through a quick demo of what that looks like. And then the RHSM side, or directly connected customers, again, for those directly connected systems, we will have SCA available. We're targeting spring. I don't know if it's going to be early spring or late spring. So then lastly, let's talk about how does SCA help renewals, right? Because we know we have a big renewal coming up, and it's a topic that is, top of mind. So traditionally with a renewal, right, when we think about how renewals are treated, I like to use an analogy to express them. So the analogy I like to use is ordering a magazine subscription. Let's use Time Magazine. When I, purchase my initial subscription of Time Magazine, those magazines come to my house every month, right? And everything's good. I read the magazines, off I go. Sometime before my subscription ends, they send me a little card in the mail. They say, hey, Mr. Dorito, would you like to renew for another year? I provide my information, provide payment, off I go. the magazines just show up, right? I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to change my behavior. I've paid for the new year subscriptions. The magazine should just keep showing up, right? We would like to get the Red Hat subscription experience as close to that as possible, okay? While we're not entirely there yet, SEA is going to help that out a lot. Today, when you go through a Red Hat renewal, what happens is we introduce a large set of new subscriptions into your account or accounts. You're large enough, you got multiple accounts. Then someone has to go and take those subscriptions, allocate them to various subscription manifests. Those manifests then need to be imported into those satellites, whether they are connected satellites or disconnected satellites. And then lastly, which is the most painful part, I then have to attach those subscriptions to each and every single last system that may require Red Hat subscription services. And again, depending upon the complexity of the environment, number of subscriptions, and number of systems, we're talking a period of time from, at the minimum, hours to the upside of weeks, if not, months. So when SCA is enabled, a number of those steps go away. We still introduce the new large group of subscriptions into your account. You still need to allocate those subscriptions to the subscription manifest as you've always done. And then you still need to also import them into the satellite servers that need them. But the most painful part, the time you must spend to allocate the subscriptions to each and every host, that time is removed. It's removed. It is completely removed. And that's where we get a lot of that benefit of using SCA at a Red Hat subscription renewal, right? Because the most burdensome part of that workflow is, in fact, one, attaching the subscriptions, and two, knowing which subscription was previously attached. So with that being said, we do have some resources here. We're going to send over a copy of this deck. This deck is, even though the label on it says confidential, there's nothing in this deck that's confidential. So we'll share this deck so that you have it for future resource. And these 3 links are available on our customer portal, which kind of go into more of the background of, or more of the detail of what SCA is, how it works, any operational changes you may need to make. Same with Subscription Watch. And then lastly, one of the technologies that I didn't speak on much in this presentation is a technology we have called System Purpose, which works really well with Subscription Watch. And basically what System Purpose is it's a tagging mechanism that we provide so that you can tag the systems with what workloads or what Red Hat products are being used on those systems. And that helps influence the accuracy of the data that we show in Subscription Watch. So I am going to show you just kind of a quick demo of SubsWatch and SCA real quick, and then we can stop and we can break out into any questions that you may have. So let me break out of here, and then I'm going to head over to Subscription Watch. Alrighty. So this representation of Subscription Watch that's on the screen right now, it's a little bit more updated than what was shown in the presentation. Just wanted to bring it up because we did make a number of changes relatively recently. So one of the things that we made a change to in Subscription Watch is that we show you the cloud on which a particular public cloud instance is running. And then what I can do is, again, if I can hover over any particular day, I can see that on that particular day, what was my usage. In the case of January 3rd, I had 42 sockets of physical RHEL, 7 sockets of virtualized RHEL, 11 sockets on the public cloud, and 184 sockets that I've owned in total. Right? I can also start to filter these systems. So let me just look at, systems that have a production use case, right? You'll see that my chart will mutate, right? And it'll show me that, oh, I only have about, let's take a look at January 3rd again. So on January 3rd, I had 34 sockets of physical RHEL that was explicitly tagged with a production use case. So it allows me to start slicing and dicing that inventory, right? Through production use cases, development use cases. I also can look at other things such as, what's the SLA associated with that system? right? So it allows me to start slicing and dicing my inventory in very unique and creative ways. And on the left-hand side, I can also break out rel based upon the architecture, because that is a major thing that's a differentiator between various rel products. And then below this, you'll see that we have OpenShift. So we also show OpenShift data as well. So my OpenShift data is a little bit more varying in size because my OpenShift clusters vary in size on a day-to-day basis. And as time goes on, we'll be introducing new products. So you'll just see them pop in on the left-hand side of Subscription Watch when those new products are released. But let's go into SCA and how SCA actually presents itself. So as I showed you in the presentation, you head over to the customer portal, you hit the subscriptions allocations page, you turn on this big tab that says, I want to turn on SCA. Awesome. What have you changed in your environment? Nothing. This tab controls whether or not you can use SCA on any of the manifests below, but it doesn't actually change the manifest itself. You actually have to go do that explicitly. So I'm going to click on one of my manifests, wait for this to load, and you'll see on this manifest I have the ability to enable or disable the SCA functionality. Once I've enabled SCA in this manifest, I can refresh it within my satellite server, either through the satellite UI, or in the case of a disconnected satellite, I'll hit this export manifest button, take it over into that air-gapped environment and import it there. Either method works, they're both the same. And then once that's done, once I head over to the satellite server, hop over to the subscriptions page. And one of the things you'll notice is that once you've imported an SCA-enabled manifest, Satellite will frequently remind you that you are operating in SCA mode, meaning that there are certain things in the Satellite UI that are disabled or changed in behavior that you need to be aware of. So you'll see that Satellite tells me here on the subscriptions page, you have SCA enabled. You can consume content from the repositories you're associated with. You don't have to attach a subscription. So if I head over and take a look at various hosts that I have in the satellite server, let's say I pick my Rev host. I notice that if I take a look at my Rev host, you'll see things like even subscription status are disabled because those are constructs that don't matter anymore when SCA is turned on, right? Like, do you need to have a subscription attached and is it the right one? That's not a construct that matters anymore in SCA. So we turn that off and we explicitly tell you that we turn it off. Same thing with auto attach, right? There's no auto attaching of subscriptions anymore. You have access to the bits. So we mark that as non-applicable. That system purpose capability, right? Remember in the subscription watch page that I showed a few minutes ago, I showed myself slicing and dicing the inventory based upon the SLA or the usage type. That is governed by these system purpose attributes that get set on the system. And I can set these either on the system explicitly. I can set them at registration time through an activation key. I also can set it through the CLI, the API, through the Ansible playbook if you're leveraging our Ansible playbooks for subscription management. So at its core, SCA doesn't really change a lot of how Satellite looks, changes a few things, but also its elegance is in its simplicity in the fact that we don't have to attach subscriptions. We don't have the complexity of subscription management, which makes things like operations really easy. We just register systems and consume the content that we're associated to use. And we survive our renewals a lot easier by not having to attach subscriptions to systems at renewal time. So with that, I'm actually going to pause. I'm going to pause and more so stop, actually, because I don't have anything else to demo. And I just wanted to open it up for questions so I can make sure we have a lively discussion.
Hey, Rich, this is AJ. So we did have one question come into the chat. So to use SCA, it assumes you are connected to the internet. What happens if you're not connected to the internet?
To use SCA, it does not require you to be connected to the internet. Subscription Watch requires requires you to configure a data pipeline between your satellite server and Subscription Watch. And I'll talk about how that differs. But SCA is an attribute that you set on your satellite manifest, and it's built that way on purpose because not all satellites are connected. So in the case of a disconnected satellite server that does not have access to the internet, that's totally fine. You go to the customer portal, you set the SCA attribute on that manifest, download that manifest, walk it over into your air-gapped environment, upload it into that satellite, and now that satellite's operating in SCA mode. No connection to the internet is required.
Hey, Rich, this is Christopher Dale. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Quick question on the export of the manifest. Is there plans to tie that in to export of relevant content, particularly for air-gapped systems?
So the manifest is somewhat separate from the content itself. And it's kind of done that way on purpose because those two things evolve at different speeds, right? Your manifest is actually relatively static. It generally only changes when you either A, when you introduce new subscriptions, so you purchase more stuff, or B, it changes when Red Hat releases new versions of existing products. Say RHEL 8.4 comes out. Those are really only times the manifest changes, whereas the repository content changes basically daily. So we don't have a plan today to link those two together. One of the things that I do know that the satellite team's working on, because they're close cousins of ours, is they are working to improve the content export experience in satellite to better support folks who have disconnected environments where they need to frequently introduce new content to stay up to date with bug fixes and security fixes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I've got one question. My name is Michael Soto, and does Subscription Watch account for an Azure Marketplace procured Red Hat VMs?
Oh, that is such a good question, and I hate the way I have to answer it. But yes, that is a very good question. So currently today, Subscription Watch has been built and geared towards systems that are spun up based upon yearly subscriptions you've purchased. We have been having a very vigorous debate inside of Red Hat on how do we handle the marketplace systems, the systems you buy directly from the vendor, not from us. And when we originally built Subscription Watch, we're like, well, why would they want to see those systems in Subscription Watch? They're not paying us a subscription for them. So that was how we originally built Subscription Watch. So to answer your question directly, no, we do not represent those systems that are running on Azure inside of Subscription Watch that are purchased through the marketplace. However, like I said, we're having vigorous discussion on how do we represent them, or do we represent them, because part of the arguable value prop of Subscription Watch is we show you all your Red Hat stuff in one place, and it would be a weird omission to not show the marketplace systems, even though you haven't purchased them from us. It's kind of the stance we're taking. Also, a thing that we are responsible for is helping you to make operational intelligence decisions around cost management, right? You pay a premium to use RHEL through the marketplace versus purchasing a yearly subscription. So being able to see both of those in the same place will help you as a consumer of Red Hat technologies decide when and if it is time to move from marketplace Azure to yearly Azure. And lastly, there's a couple of new technologies that Microsoft introduced that we take advantage of. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Microsoft released something called the Azure Hybrid Benefit, which is basically quite frankly, one of the greatest things that has been introduced on the public cloud, because it allows you to take a marketplace instance that you've been paying for, on a credit card or whatever, and switch that system over to using a yearly subscription that you've already pre-purchased, and do so in such a way that you don't have to reinstall the system. So understanding that, people are going to probably move between these two buying models often makes a very strong case as to why we should represent those systems as subscription watch. But currently today they are not.
Thanks, Rich. And is that new for the hybrid use benefit? Last I knew that was only available for Windows servers, not for Red Hat.
Yes, it went live, I believe, in September at Microsoft Ignite, or whenever the last Ignite was, either September or October. That is a capability that is available for Red Hat Enterprise Linux instances as well as Windows.
I'll have to look into that. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Warwick with NAFAC. I work with Mike Soto. I have a follow-on question, and it's good information on the hybrid use because we were not aware that that was available for RHEL. Right now, when we create a RHEL VM from the marketplace, the SKUs that we use automatically include the Red Hat update infrastructure, and we were told that we could not easily change that without rebuilding the VM, so that way we could use Red Hat Satellite Server. Is there going to be a change in that where we could switch between the two?
Yes. Oh man, it seems like I've gotten all the questions about all my pet projects today. This is awesome. So yes, so the short answer to the question is we are working, and I don't have an ETA on this yet, but expect it within the year. We are working on a set of offerings to make it easy to take that marketplace purchase system and use that system with satellite. Currently today, we have some challenges in that space, both on the business side, mostly on the business side. The technical side is actually not as hard as the business side, but we do have some challenges around, well, we tell you that if you're going to use something with satellite, you need smart management. And we don't sell smart management in the marketplace, right? So that's the business challenge that we have, and we're working to address that. But expect sometime this year, I'm not quite locked in on dates yet, that you will be able to take a marketplace image that is out of the box connected to RUI, the Red Hat Update infrastructure, and be able to have some kind of packaging where you can take that system and register it with a satellite. And that would be an out-of-box, I'm going to say out-of-box, but a generally available offering that would come from either Red Hat or the marketplace.
Yeah, our current challenge is now that if we had Red Hat Satellite Server and then we registered, we'd be paying the license twice, one from Microsoft based on SKU, and then one from you based on Red Hat. But until we can actually easily switch the SKU or the image where it points to, we would not necessarily rebuild a VM just to get off of RHUI and use satellite.
Right. And we understand that, right? So one of the things that has been somewhat vertically integrated in our cloud experience has been, who do you pay for it? Who gives you content, and how do you manage, right? You've had to kind of pick one side or the other, right? So if you went to the marketplace, you're like, okay, I got to do everything the marketplace way. I have to buy from the marketplace, I got to get my content from the marketplace, and I can only manage it using tools that are in the marketplace. And then on the flip side, we had bring your own subscription, where it's like, well, you can bring your own subscription, but you got to provide your systems management, and you can only get your content through, tools like Satellite or our customer portal. And what we've realized is that there's going to be permutations where you're going to want to mix and match the two, right? You might want to buy RHEL from the marketplace because you might not need it for that long, but at the same time, you want to register it to your satellite server because your satellite server has, your security tools, your curated content, all the things that satellite does. And to use the Ghostbusters reference, we kind of want you to cross the streams, right? And today we make it very difficult to do that. And that's what we're working on addressing this year, is making it so that you can mix and match those capabilities, and best fit them based upon whatever the workload is.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
This is Christopher again, and the question is probably more for AJ. But in instances where we're using Amazon, and we can do bring your own subscription, do we have any guidance under the ELA that we should be purchasing our subscriptions through the ELA versus buying REL instances from Amazon that are have that entitlement rolled in, although at a much more expensive cost?
So Christopher, yes. So the Dawn ESLA is the mandated source of supply for all Red Hat for the Navy. So if in your cloud environments there is bring your own license, then you should be buying them off of the enterprise license agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and the caveat that this is Jason over at DLT as well. I help manage this program. You would just use the Cloud Access program from Red Hat, and I can help you with that documentation if you need.
Okay, yes, I think you have my number if you can give me a call. And I see that Turner just left the channel. Usually I deal with Turner.
Yep, not a problem.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Let me actually ask one follow-up on the nuance with regard to Amazon. So you can do on demand where you're spinning things up as you use them, and you can do reserved instances. For on demand, maybe they're using them 20 minutes, an hour, or whatever. Very low number. Do we have to make any qualified estimate of how much of a subscription that we're using before we say one is cheaper than the other, or is it just a straight up that the subscription needs to be used off the ELA?
So if I fully understand your question, sir, when you go to Amazon, it's based on consumption, right? You can use a minute, it can go in full light production. Usually if you're doing production, you don't want to use Amazon because the cost is just extraordinary, like you mentioned.
Got it. Yep.
So you would utilize Red Hat's ELA that we have in place, and then again, you would just use the Cloud Access program to bring those subscriptions into Amazon. And at any point, if you guys say, okay, well, Amazon's no longer the environment we want to hold these subscriptions in, you can just bring them back out and bring them back to the bigger bucket, or utilize those on-prem.
Yeah, so I guess maybe a clarification there. So let's say normally we're running, let's say 10 VMs. So we have 10 RHEL subscriptions. But occasionally, because it's a highly fluid environment, we say, hey, can we spin up 5 and check XYZ? And we do it, and 2 hours later, we're done. Did we need to, because we can't actually do that under the bring your own subscription model without actually having the 5 additional subscriptions, by the kind of ephemeral thing where we say, I'm going to spin up 5 VMs for 2 hours and be done with it. Clearly, the cost benefit of a 2-hour use and being able to throw it out the window is more cost effective. But how do we navigate those waters here?
I would have to take that offline and kind of talk to maybe AJ and Tiffany Lindemann and figure out how we want to use that. I think when it comes to the ELA, that's not how the consumption of the subscription should be used. Is, hey, I need it. I'll do a SAR and get it for 2 hours and return the SAR. Right.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, but again, when you guys going to the cloud, it makes sense to do a consumption model if you're only doing it for 2 hours or for development, not production.
Right. We do have a base load, which I think the ELA model certainly makes sense. It's not what we're doing now, but it certainly makes sense. But then there's that up and down, that thing. And we could just say, over the course of the year, our peak is, 15 entitlements, and we can just negotiate it that way. We just need some guidance to know what to do.
Let me take this offline, and I'll follow up with some questions that I have, and we'll kind of find out a solution for you. Does that work?
Okay. Yep. Works for
And I'm
me.
sorry,
Thank you very much.
I didn't get your name. I have your phone number 540-653-9661, but not a name to go with.
Yeah, Christopher Dale. I'm also on the desktop, but my NMCI machine's kind of wiggy. So I'm david.c.dale there, but I go by Christopher.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Great questions, guys. Great conversation. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Rich. I really appreciate your time and the content. This was great. For all of our customers, we will be posting the presentation on the DLT Marketplace along with a copy of this tutorial. So, please be on the lookout that anybody who's attended here and put your information in the meeting chat, we will make sure that you guys get a direct copy of it as well. If you have any questions, follow-up questions, after we close out, feel free to reach out to the DLT team, Navy Red Hat team at DLT.com. Once again, it's Navy Red Hat team at DLT.com, and we will make sure that we get your questions answered or get you connected with Rich and team. Anything else? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close out. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, y'all.